When the darkness of night descended, humanity was often left to linger in its own fears. People sought refuge in the false comfort of a campfire, as they shared stories of terror to confront their inner demons. This ritual of fear was made a tradition by the Wild West Cowboys, leaving behind tales that still haunt us to this day. In the Old West, the natives used to share centuries-old legends and superstitions with frontiersmen, helping to spread the terror of these stories beyond the region. One particularly terrifying tale refers to the song of a bird, an entity nicknamed the Bird of Death. We speak of a black bird, very similar to a crow, whose song resembles the lament of a woman. The melody is considered a bad omen, and when it is heard, it is because death is near. Native Americans came to link the bird with tragedy and say that it was attracted to those who were destined to die a violent death. Whenever it fed on meat, this bird sought to devour the dead, especially the eyes. One legend claimed that if the bird landed on a person's shadow, the person would die in less than a week. In 1840, a widely circulating newspaper published a poem about the legend of the Bird of Death. From then on, cowboys, outlaws, and lawmen began to watch for any black bird that came across their path and tried to land on their shadow. The gold rush brought with it a new kind of fear, of unknown dangers lurking in the shadows. Prospectors had to be on guard at all times, and the most common way of protecting their interests was to train attack dogs. Turning these royal companions into weapons of violence was seen as a necessity, and so they were subject to cruel practices, such as being beaten, starved, and even being fed human flesh to make them more aggressive. The result was an unstoppable force of nature, a beast that could not be tamed, a creature that would bring death to any foolish enough to provoke it. Many times, these dogs ended up turning against their own owners. The level of savagery they exhibited was so great that when the mines were closed, they would rather kill them than take them to the civilization. Eldorado Canyon became famous for these attack dogs. Some say that during the peak of activity in the area, at least 100 of these violent animals protected the mines. When mining came to an end, instead of killing these animals, they ended up releasing them into the huge canyon gorge. For many years, the place was abandoned and no one returned. Decades later, when they initiated a project to transform the site into a dam, rumors began to emerge of wild dogs, far more ferocious than any animal ever seen before. The animals acted in packs, attacking anyone in their path to defend their territory with admirable determination. All those years of isolation turned them into true hellhounds. Some say they still live in that desert and are responsible for many attacks and disappearances in the area. Rumor has it, Jesse Woodson James was more than a mere outlaw. He was an entity of pure evil, striking fear in the hearts of those who dared cross his path. His reign of terror between the 1860s and the 1880s was legendary. But then, all of a sudden, the stories of Jesse James' demise began to circulate. People claimed he was shot in the back, never to be heard from again. However, some whispered his death was only a ruse, that he made a pact with the devil himself. A pact that would grant him a second chance on the earthly plane, but only if he agreed to become a Grim Reaper, a soul collector of the dead. The story of Jesse James' pact with the devil spread rapidly across the land, and soon many reported sightings of the vengeful spirit. It was said that the only way for him to find peace was to claim the souls of 1,000 sinners, and so, in the dead of night, he would appear, clad in a black cloak atop a black steed, his eyes burning like twin embers, pistol of silver in his hands, with each out a plume of sulphurous smoke billowed in the air, and all those who had dared to make a deal with the devil would be hunted down without mercy. The legend persists that after claiming 1,000 souls, Jesse James would be granted a return to life. But the devil had other plans, and now the notorious outlaw's ghost is confined to the grounds on his final resting place in Kearney, Missouri. It is whispered that the spectre of Jesse James still responds to desperate prayers made on night of a full moon. If the request is intriguing enough, the dead bandit will rise from the grave to carry out one more deathly mission. Darkness looms over the Superstition Mountains of Arizona, a mysterious place full of tales of a legendary fortune that lies within its depths. A lost Dutchman's mine, an Eldorado that has spawned a lifetime of searchers, with stories of charlatans selling maps to the unexpected. But how did the story start? In the late 1870s, a dying man was found in the desert, delirious and dehydrated. He spoke in a language no one understood, until someone recognized it as German. With the assistance of a German immigrant, the man was finally identified as Waltz, and he spoke of a mountain of gold inside the mine. His word sparked the legend of the lost Dutchman's mine that still fascinates us today. The truth is that no one paid much attention to it. It was no wonder that the miner went crazy in the face of such loneliness and paranoia. Finally, Waltz died. But before he died, he said that he had bought some of the gold in his bag. The interpreter went to the site where Waltz was found and indeed discovered a sack with a considerable amount of gold dust. When the rumor began to spread, everyone went crazy. A veritable gold rush was generated in the area, and miners from all over the country came to look for the lost mine of the Dutchman. At that time, the inhabitants of the Old West called the Germans Dutchmen. Darkness descended on the Superstition Mountains, and the mysterious lost Dutchman mine seemed to attract increasing numbers of people, eager for the riches it promised. But as the weeks and months went by, an impressive number of people simply vanished. Some speak of horrific accidents, but others speak of a disturbing presence lurking in the shadows. Inevitably, there have been many accidents, but that doesn't explain all the disappearances. Even more disturbing, no one could explain the appearance of hands, feet and heads in the mountains in the months that followed. Who buried several miners up to their necks? Who or what killed these men with their own pickaxes? Who was behind the attack on the camp and the kidnapping of 4 miners? Many unknown and no explanation was given at the time. The lost Dutchman mine continues to attract and frighten people who hear about it. For many, the mine is protected by the ghost of Waltz himself, but others believe that the Superstition Mountains hold secrets so terrifying that we are not ready to discover them. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, painting the sky in a fiery orange. The border between Mexico and South Texas was as foggy as the morning air, with no clear delineation of who owned what. The only markers that separated these two nations were the Rio Bravo and the Nueces River, but without an agreement between the two countries, the area became a lawless land of opportunity. The rustlers saw this as a blessing. They crept into Texas, nimbly stealing cattle and horses from unexpected ranchers. Then, with a quickness, they rode off into the night, disappearing into the fog with their ill-gotten gains. No one could stop them, for the lawlessness of this land provided them with a safe haven. The situation was dire, but no one could do anything to stop the rustlers. The people of South Texas lived in fear, wondering what would become of their land and livestock. Little did they know, the answer was on the horizon. The Texas Rangers were determined to put an end to the reign of Arturo Vidal, the notorious Mexican outlaw who had eluded capture for so long. After months of searching, the Rangers finally tracked him down to the small town of Amarillo, but capturing Vidal didn't come without a price. The shootout that ensued resulted in the deaths of 2 of the Rangers, and their anger and grief drove them to avenge their fallen comrades in the most extreme way possible. Without granting Vidal the chance to stand trial, the Rangers took the law into their own hands and hanged the outlaw from a bridge. The people of Amarillo were in shock, watching as the outlaw's body swayed in the wind. The incident would forever be remembered as a reminder of the lengths that the Texas Rangers were willing to go in pursuit of justice. With a final act of brutality, the officers of the law sought to send a stern message to the criminals of Mexico. Arturo Vidal, the man who had dared to challenge their authority, was to be a living warning of their vengefulness. The officers chopped off his head and tied his body to a wild horse. In a gruesome display of power, they release the horse, letting it carry Arturo's body across the border into Mexico, as a dire warning to all who would oppose them. The people of Mexico heard the story and were filled with terror and dread. From then on, none dared to stand up the officers of the law. Arturo Vidal was a chilling reminder of the consequences of defiance. The eerie legend of the dead man quickly spread throughout Texas, after reports of a headless horseman galloping south of the Lone Star State. Witnesses described the spirit riding with an intensity that could only be felt in the chill of the night air, heading straight towards the Rio Grande. People whispered of a ghostly rider who was none other than Vidal, the former ranch hand who had died years ago, but no one knew how or why he had come back as a spirit, and the mystery only deepened as the sighting continued. The fear of the dead man was palpable, and the Cowboys of Texas avoided the roads at night for fear of encountering the Headless Horseman. But as time passed, the legend only grew, and it seemed that Vidal had become an immortal part of Texas folklore. The Rangers, who took part in executing Arturo Vidal, had no idea of the horror they would soon face. For it is said that the spirit of the dead man rose up in the form of a Headless Horseman, and with a fiery vengeance he hunted down each of those involved. At each of his victims, he left the mark of a horse footprint on their chest, a reminder of their part in his death. The legend of the Headless Horseman still lingers in South Texas, and many claim to have seen him riding across the desolate frontier. Whether it was the spirit of Arturo Vidal or something more sinister, no one knows for sure, but one thing is certain: those who cause the dead man do so at their own peril. The legend of the Skinwalker has long been whispered among the Navajo people, passed down with fearful reverence. They are mysterious and powerful beings capable of changing shape and taking on the form of any living creature. Stories of their malevolent nature have been told, of how they stalk the night and cause terror and misery throughout the land. Tales of their victims, both young and old, have been told, of how they have been viciously attacked, never to be heard from again. The presence of a Skinwalker is said to bring a chill to the air and a sense of dread. Those who have encountered one speak of being unable to move, as if frozen in time. It is said that the only way to escape is to keep your eyes closed and pray. Some have even claimed to feel a presence in their arm, as if someone is watching them. The fear of a Skinwalker is still very real, and no one knows when or where one might turn up. It is a reminder that there are still things in this world we do not understand, and that even this day and age there can still be things lurking in the shadows. The fear of the Skinwalkers was so palpable in the Old West that no one dared to venture out on moonless nights. Those who dared to take the risk never returned, or if they did, they were changed forever. Many stories of meeting these creatures circulated, and the most popular was the one about the flint fragments. It was said that the flint fragments was the only thing that could identify and kill a Skinwalker. When they were near, the mineral glowed, and if they were skinned carefully, their death would be permanent. Many brave souls tried to confront these evil beings, all in the hopes of ridding the world of their malicious presence. But for everyone that succeeded, there were countless others that failed, never to be seen or heard from again. The mystery surrounding Skinwalkers continue to this day, and no one knows for sure if these creatures even exist. But one thing is certain: the legends of these creatures will live in the mind of those brave enough to tell their stories. As the sun began to set, the villagers gathered around the fire, their faces lit by its orange glow. They spoke of mysterious creatures, of those who could change their shape and skin, of those who would become someone else. The elders spoke in hushed tones of stories they had heard, of people who had gone on a journey and returned as something else, something not human. They spoke of the Skinwalkers, of the monsters that the redskins feared so much. The stories were enough to send a chill down the spine of the younger children. Even the elders looked apprehensive, as if they knew that these creatures were still out there, lurking in the shadows. But still the stories persisted, and the legend of the Skinwalkers still lives on, in the hearts and minds of the indigenous people. If you were to ask a Navajo descendant about them, they would probably warn you in hushed tones to be careful, for to mention their name is to draw attention. When we begin to delve into legends and mysteries, we can only wonder if it's all true. Is there any truth to them, or are they just tales, meant to entertain and fascinate? What do you think? Are these stories just fiction, or could they be real?